Hey, welcome to the 757 Spy flight over on YouTube. I'm sure you must recognize this old bird. This is the Innsbruck's A310. It came to Microsoft Flight Simulator a few weeks ago free, and I think it's one of the most popular airplanes in the sim skies. Hello, I'm Dave. Welcome to my channel. Welcome if you're new. This is the Spy Flight on YouTube. Normally I'm doing the Spy Flight over on Twitch, but once a week I like to come in and do one of the complete cold and dark flights in an airplane. And sometimes we do a complete flight from flight planning. Sometimes we choose a particularly difficult approach. And today, we're doing a particularly difficult approach. Actually, we're doing two. So one of the things that people are learning about this airplane is this is an old Airbus. This is not like a new Airbus. And one of the things is it doesn't fly like the newer Airbuses. And in particularly, when you start your descent, one of the things that happens with this old bird is profile descent gets a little bit dodgy as you're starting to get a little bit closer to 10,000 feet or leveling off for your platform altitude or something like that. And so flight level change is your bestest buddy, especially when you're coming into airports like the one that we're going into today. What are we up to? Well, we are going to Innsbruck today. We're taking the A310. We're going to talk about descent profile or flight level change. And we're also going to do a VOR approach into Innsbruck with the infamous circle to land. Oh yes, it's one of my favorite approaches. And when you pull it off, it really feels good. I'm using Navigraph, Sim Toolkit Pro, and SimBrief. I'm also using Microsoft Flight Simulator Live Weather and also Live Time. The only other add-on that I'm really using is something called Pushback Helper, and you can get that free at flightsim.to. Our flight plan for today, Zurich to Innsbruck. We are departing off of Zurich's runway 28. We are doing the DEGES Yankee departure. A couple of checkpoints, then MADEB 1 Bravo into Innsbruck's runway 8. Our cruise level, flight level is 22,000 feet. It's about an hour's flight today. And our distance is only 125 miles, but this is the perfect airport to be able to go and fly this, this amazing airplane. So let's head on out to the Sim airport right now and get this thing ready to go. If you would like, look in the description below. One of the things that people notice when I'm flying over on Twitch is I've got a little notepad thing, and I'm going to put that here on the screen. And I call this the flight strip. And this is a text file that I do in Notepad, and I'll do this for each flight. One of the things is I've cut and I have pasted this into the description. So you can cut and paste it into your own notepad and then change this as much as you would like. And I got to tell you, I really think that this is definitely helpful for me. Now, if you're brand new to Flight Sim, particularly VATSIM, that's the air traffic control network that we all fly on, and then things can get really, really busy. I think that when you start out on VATSIM, it's best to have a big piece of paper and a pen. But then as you get better at that, then you can transfer over to keeping your notes on a notepad, and then you're going to start saving paper, and you're going to start feeling better about that. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into the best seat in the house. One of the things is it would be kind of nice, you know, if you could go and access electronic flight bags and stuff like that, which control airplanes, sim airplanes like this. If we could, if developers would start giving us a way to access the infamous iPads outside of the cockpit, you know, that way we could open the doors from the outside. That's just a little, you know, flight sim enthusiast immersion kind of a thing, but it would be kind of nice. So we do have to hop into the cockpit before we can go and before we can go and start getting jetways and opening doors and stuff like that. So here we are at Zurich. And by the way, this is a really nice Zurich airport. I think this is a payware that I've got. Unfortunately, I've been doing so many freewares and paywares, I don't remember where I'm getting the airports now. There's just too many. But we are going into flying out of Zurich. This is a really nice airport. We're going into another nice airport. And I will tell you that, you know, Okay, you got to buy a couple of the airports and some of the airplanes, but that really does enhance the experience. So, okay, let's hop into the best seat in the house and let's go right over to the infamous electronic flight bag. So yeah, this would be one of the things that would be great if we could access outside of the plane. You know, again, for ridiculous deep immersion. First thing that I usually do as we look at this is I go to the plug. So let's go over to the plug here, and I'm going to put chocks in place. I'm also going to go ahead and call the jetway. And if you go outside the airplane, you can see our jetway is coming in, and that's going to come over here. And there we go. There's a better view. It does open up your main door for you and bring the jetway out. So there we go. Jetway is now in place, and the pilots can now go and hop into the airplane, and they don't have to jump, which is a good thing. Now that we've got those three things in place, I also do like to open up the bulk and aft and forward cargo bays. By doing this, it's just a little bit more immersion. You don't have to do these sorts of things, but you can do that. So I like to open those up well. There isn't a really big loading sequence that goes with this airplane, but at least you can open up the doors. And of course, the other thing is about the airplane is the cabin is very nicely modeled too. So you can come out here. The seats are pretty nicely done. The no smoking sign and the seatbelt signs do work on this airplane, and you can go and do a really nice walkthrough of the cabin. So if you haven't been in a jet in quite a while, that's kind of nice. All right, so we've got chocks, GPU jetways in place. Our 1L, that's the first door on the left side. The 1L door is open, along with all the cargo bays. So one of the things I could do is I could come down here and release the parking brakes since chocks are in place. Okay, all these look good. Let's go down to the second from the bottom. This is the weight and balance. And over on your flight plan, and I'm getting the default flight plan from SimBrief. So this is called the Lido style of flight plan. It seems to be very popular amongst an awful lot of airlines. So I've been trying to learn more about this, and there's lots of good stuff in here. I mean, the PDF that you download is 34 pages long. There's a lot of reading that you can do, a lot of little rabbit holes to jump down. But what we're going to do is start off here, and we're going to go to page 3, and we're going to go and put passengers, cargo, and fuel aboard. So passengers, PAX, we're going to click it, click the 0, look at the flight plan. It says 238, so we're going to go 238, confirm. Cargo is 6.6, so click it, dial in 6.6, confirm, and then fuel is 7.9, so you do 7.9. I did not add any extra fuel for today's flight. This is just basic fuel out of SimBrief for us. 238, 6.6, 7.9. Look at those numbers over on the flight plan over here. Compare the two, 238, 6.6, 7.9 of fuel. That's all we need. So we're good to go there. Now I hit the apply button. Watch the little center of gravity thing move when I hit apply. There it goes. Once it moves, you know that your airplane is basically loaded. And then I usually click the word live. I think that basically, you know, you can't go back and click any of these numbers after that, so you can't change them in the middle of the flight, which is probably a good thing. And that's it. We are done. One of the other things is there is a really nice checklist in here. Sometimes when I'm trying to use this gets frozen, and I wish I could figure out a way to fix that, but I don't know how to fix that right now. But we do have a really good checklist in here, and that's nice. Another thing to do is go online if you possibly can and just do a search for A310 space checklist space PDF. And chances are you're going to get something that looks like this. If you're really going to start diving into these complex jets, printing up a copy and putting it in a little plastic thing really will kind of help you out. Okay, so we got those taken care of. Let's go ahead and start doing the things that flight sim pilots live for, and that's flipping buttons in our sim cockpit. And the way we turn this airplane on is the battery switches. We have 3 of them. So there is 3 batteries. So 1, 2, and 3. It will beep at you a little bit. Once you get the batteries on, come on down here. If you've plugged in your external power, which we did in the electronic flight bag, you can see that external power is available. We're going to pop that in. And then the most important thing that we're going to do is turn on the galley switch. Because, hey, in essential equipment is your cup of coffee. And that means we actually have power to the galley. And if you're doing a morning flight like I am, you've got to have that morning cup of coffee in there. Okay, all of this is looking good. Look over at the date on your computer. The day I'm recording this is the 19th. That is an odd day. There are 2 navigation and logo light systems on an Airbus. We're going to use navigation logo light system number 1 because it's the odd number. That's one of the things you can do. Some pilots use number 1 if the captain is going to be the pilot flying the airplane. If the co-pilot is going to be flying the airplane and the captain's doing radios, then they'll use system number 2. That's one of the other ways that I've heard that they do that. And our airplane is now coming to life. The only other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn on inner tank pump 2 on the fuel system. We're going to look down here and we're going to get the master switch on for the APU. And then I'm going to hit start. We're going to get that going right now. That way we can get ventilation to the airplane. I know that in the United States there is some sort of a COVID rule about getting the APU on before the passengers get aboard so that you've actually got really good ventilation in the airplane. Over in Europe, what they'll do is they have ground ventilation that they're required to plug in. So there's 2 different ways of doing that right now. At least that's what I'm reading at the moment. So we'll wait for the APU to come up. And everything's looking good. If we look over, let's see, the APU, let's go and click the APU button down here. And you can see the APU is slowly coming up here. EGT, exhaust gas temperature, that's how hot the gas is coming out of the back of the airplane. That's coming up, and once coming up, APU generator is going to pop up in just a little bit. If you go outside the airplane and you come on back here, you should start to hear the APU starting to fire up. Well, okay, there we go. I couldn't have timed that any better. Wow. That, I'm going to say, is a pretty good startup sequence. That was a pretty good start sequence, I've got to say. And looks like everything's... Okay, here we go. Here comes the numbers. So EGT is coming up, 485, 82. As this gets up to 100, now all of a sudden you can see we've got voltages coming up here in the generator. They're yellow, which means it's not enough to power the airplane. But now it is when they turn green. Now the EGT is going to go down just a little bit. We're at 100% N1 in our little jet engine. And if you look up here, we have gone from start to available. So we can slide over here and we're going to turn on the APU bleed. And you can see now there's pressure in the pneumatic system. That's all the air ducts in the airplane. So now the airplane is properly ventilated. And we can go and turn down the airplane just a little bit today. So now that we've got our ventilation turned on, we've got the nav lights turned on, the next thing I'm going to do is look down here. And we got 2 little buttons, 2 little knobs down here. And it's this one right here in the middle. It says panel and pedestal. So we're going to turn this up, and this is the backlighting, also known as integrated lighting. So we're going to turn up the integrated lighting. So we just did these 2. One of them is the pedestal and the front panel. The other one is the overhead, and you can see the overhead is starting to pop out pretty good. It just makes it a little bit easier to read the instruments. The last thing I'm going to do is come over here, and we're going to come down here, and we're going to do the captain and center instrument lights. Same thing. And if we were flying at night, I would also do a little bit, maybe 2 clicks here of the main instrument panel floodlight. But it's daylight, we don't need that today. Oh, those are loud fans. So we've got all of that going on. The lighting is good. The last little bit of lighting I'll do is here in the middle. And this is the knob here for the autopilot, the flight control unit, as it's known. And so we'll turn on the FCU backlighting. Just makes it easier to see that. And our airplane is now ready to go and do pilot stuff. So let's come over here, and I start with the co-pilot first. If you have connected the airplane, if you set it up in the settings, your username for your username with SimBrief, you can hit menu and ACARS, and there's where you would put in your username. You don't have to do a password, just your username, and then request SimBrief. If it flashes and goes pending, then all of a sudden your company route uplink is done. I'll clear that. We'll come over here, and you can see on the pilot side we have LSZH to LOWI. The initial flight plan is now in. More importantly, the flight management computer knows which airport we're at right now, which means we can come back up here to the upper panel, and we're going to come over here, and we're going to start doing the nav systems. So over here, you could go and switch this to heading and status and turn this over to nav. The battery operation light turns on. That eventually goes out, and then it says it goes into align mode. Once that happens, I usually will slide over here and sliding around, and I'm going to go ahead and do it for nav 2. That's over on top of the co-pilot, battery operation, and then align. And then we're going to come over here, and we're going to do the one in the middle. That's number 3. 3 systems on most airplanes too. Okay, all those are in align mode. Now then, let's come on down here. There is a flight recorder, and in the Airbus it's called ground control. You turn that on, that means the flight recorder will record you while you're on the ground. So if you push the wrong button, there you go. If you're having a hard time seeing, there is a reading light here in the middle. You can click that on, and then usually I will come over here to the passenger and crew oxygen low pressure supply button. Watch this center, the low pressure gauge, push it, it goes into the green zone. And so now we have oxygen. And that's pretty much your basic preliminary setup. At this point, if we were on VATSIM, I would be going and getting our clearance. And after we rogered that, I would come down here and we can start plugging stuff in. First thing it says, align IRS, and you see it says align IRS here. Click this before you clear this notification message. Sometimes I forget, and that's a good way to not forget. Cost index. Okay, so I haven't really got a good method for doing cost index right now. I found one little graphic that I've read, and it looks like it makes sense. So I usually choose a cost index somewhere between 60 and 80. Right now I'm just putting in 60 for my cost index, and that keeps me out of trouble. Last thing I'm going to do is put in my call sign, PAA, Pan American World Airways, flying as Flight 441, and that's going to pop in there. And all of that is right with the world. Since the airplane is loaded, we can come down here to weight and balance, and it says 0 fuel weight 105,806. So we're going to go 105.8, and we're going to pop this in here on the init page B side. So go to the next page, and 0 fuel weight is 105.8. Okay, let's go ahead and put that in there. Our block fuel is next, and you'll find the fuel right there, 7.9, which is the same thing that you put in over on the electronic flight bag. So we'll go 7.9, and that's going to be in block fuel. After that, look back over here, and underneath the airplane, see where it says CG 24.4? That's your center of gravity. So center of gravity goes in here, 24.4. And then that can go right in there. And there is init page B. We're going to come back to this page in a bit. Let's go to the flight plan. Over on the flight plan, LSZH. Let's go ahead and click that. And let's center this up so you can see it better. LSZH. SID. This is our departure. We know that the real world right now is departing off of runway 28. By the way, if you're flying this flight along with me, which I hope you are, fly along with me and punch the buttons as I'm pushing the buttons. Your runway may be different because the weather may be different from what I'm flying with. We're doing the DEGES 1 Yankee departure. So 1 Yankee, and there were no transitions, so all we have to do is insert that. And that takes care of our departure. Let's come on down here. Now this is where it gets a little bit weird. As we come on in, there is the rest of our... There's our top of descent at MADEB, and there's end of flight plan and LOWI, LOWI. Let's go ahead and click this, our star. Now then, what we're going to be doing is we're doing the localizer 26. That's the first thing that we're going to do. The localizer to runway 26. We're doing the MADI 1 Bravo via RTT, that's Rattenberg. But the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to then transition to the circle to land. This gets a little complex, but this is the kind of fun stuff. So let's go ahead and insert that. You see it says GPS primary is in. So navigation accuracy upgrade is done. And so our flight plan is pretty good. So go to the top, Zurich runway 28. This is our departure. And there's top of climb. And there's MADEB. There's top of descent. There's Rattenberg. There's Adwig. Good old friends. If we have to go missed, it's vectors off the runway. So all of that's good, and that is all set up for our approach. Next thing for us to do is we're going to go back to the init page, and we're going to go back to, let's also put in an alternate. Our alternate airport is on page 2 at the top of page 2 of the flight plan. It is EDDM. So Munich is our alternate, and that way we just have our alternate in there too. And that pretty much fills that out. Go to page B. All of this is stuff that we filled in. TOGW, takeoff gross weight, is 113.3. 113.3, we're going to remember that. Go back over here and click the airplane. And that was, click this number here, 113.3. If you forgot, look back there. Yep, 113.3, and then hit enter. Okay, so that's going to go and get your takeoff gross weight in. Right underneath that, we usually take off with flaps 15, slats 15, and flaps 15, so you're going to have to click that. Now, for runway length, if you've gone and put all of your runways in at this point, you can go and click the runway length button, and it's going to give you your runway length down here, so you don't have to look it up. You can type, you just click that, and it puts it in there. Then you can go and click runway heading, and it says 276. That's the heading off the runway, and so all of that is good. And this also went and got our weather information too, and now we can go and calculate. Now then, I usually fly Airbuses as a all in metric. Okay, it's an Airbus, it's from Europe, it should be in metric, which means that the altimeter setting here, 1026, is going to need to be in hectopascals. Let's say you're flying this airplane in the United States and your altimeter is in inches of mercury. There's a little trick that you can do here. So we're going to do this a little bit backwards. QNH is 1026 at this airport. So come down here. And so over on the millibars side, so let's go over here. Okay, so 1026. Let's dial that in right now. 1026. Oh, high pressure today. There's 1026. Very nice. Now then, and of course the little needle is right in the way. Anyhow, so let's say we were in the United States and the altimeter setting is, what is it, 30, is that an 8? 303, 3030 is the altimeter, is what we have for inches of mercury. Of course, we can't see it because the needle's in the, anyway. So if we were at an American airport or an airport that uses inches of mercury, put in inches of mercury here, and then read millibars over here, 1026, and then you can go and put that in if you have to do it manually. Okay, that's my little trick for that, and it works great. Okay, so everything's looking pretty good. We now that we've got the GPS primary, remember that thing popped up there here in the FMS? Let's go up here, and there's 4 switches. So there's the pitch trim, and the yaw damper, and auto throttle system. Actually, there's 6 switches. I need more coffee. Pitch trim, yaw dampers, auto throttle, auto thrust system. If you try and turn on pitch trim and yaw dampers and they turn off on you, you have to wait until your GPS is aligned. Otherwise, those will turn off on you. I remember when I first got this airplane, it's like, you can't turn it on. Why won't it work? And it was frustrating. So now that we've got those turned on, we can come over here and we can get our flex temperature to take off, 57 degrees. So we'll come down here and we're gonna go and hit flex and 57. That means we're not gonna take off with 100% thrust. We're gonna take off with 94%. So we're gonna save a little bit of fuel. We're gonna put out less pollution, and we're gonna go and we're going to not run the engines as hard. So those are the 3 reasons you use flex. Means you're gonna need more runway. That's okay. Hey, we paid for the runway. We get to use all the concrete we want, right? Now then, next thing to do is landing elevation. Come over to your charts. You can already see I've got my stack of charts already set up here in Navigraph. And look in here, Innsbruck is 1,907 feet above sea level. So you got to go and dial that in. So there's hundreds of feet. There's 1,000. Now we got to go 900. 6, 7, 8. There's 1,900. This thing goes in increments of 50 feet. So you got to do a little bit of rounding. So 1,907, this is close as we're going to get. Our landing altitude is set. Now we can come in here and start doing a few things. First of all, let's go and put our final speeds in. 134 and 136 is V1 and rotate. So 134 and 136 comes down here in takeoff and approach. So 134, that goes into V1. 136, that goes into VR. Now you notice V2, it says 100, but then it says FCU. It is not saying the F word to you, okay? Yeah, that was tacky. But it says get your V2, which is 150, and you have to put it into the flight control unit. So go to 150 up here on speed. So there's 150. Now, this is an old airplane. Old airplanes, I add 10 to this speed. 10 extra knots. Just cuz. Now, if you look down here at the flight control, at the FMS again, you see how it says 160, so it changed it in there for you? So you just put that in up here. Next thing for us to do is altitude select. If we were flying on VATSIM, the controllers on VATSIM would expect us to look at the departure and look to see this initial climb clearance. Sometimes, depending upon the departure, it says top of climb. Sometimes there's nothing there at all. They're all different. But if we were on VATSIM, VATSIM would expect us to go and check this number and look for an initial climb. So when you get your clearance, they say climb via the SID. That means look at your chart and find that number. If you don't do that number, some ATC controllers will humiliate you because you really need to go and look at that. They won't humiliate you, but they expect us to look at this like the real pilots. So 5,000 feet is our initial climb. Now then, if we go and dial this like this, you see it's in increments of 100. If you click the top part of the button, then it does increments of 1,000. So 5,000 feet, and we're good to go there. Next thing I'm going to do is come over here, and we're going to go and get our runway heading. Blasting off on runway 28, it's 274 degrees. 274 degrees. And there's 274. Now you might have noticed something here. Here's a little rabbit hole for you. You might have noticed that the runway heading here says 276. We put in 274. 74. If we come and look, do I have over here? So that includes the variation. So there's the magnetic heading and your true heading, and so there's a little bit, but you notice the difference is 2 degrees. So there's 276, 274. Oh wow, difference of 2 degrees. That's the difference. As far as what to put in up here, I generally put in that main number just that I get off of the chart up here, because those are going to be the headings that we're going to be given by ATC. So that's what I put up there. That might be wrong, but that's how I'm doing it. Last thing I'm going to do for my setup here. Okay, you notice that it's really kind of hard to see the green line here. It's a little hard to see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and you see the PFD knob? I'm going to turn this down so it's easier for me to see the green line. I have a hard time seeing that, and I think that that's what other pilots do. You could also come and turn down the ND just a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. And remember, there's 2 knobs. There's also the map knob in there. And if you're having a hard time reading these two, you can come down here below the throttles and you can turn those. I will turn these all the way down and then click 1, 2, 3, turn this one all the way down and click 1, 2, 3, and then look up there. And I just find it easier to be able to read that, especially at night when they're turned up full blast like they are. It just becomes harder to see those things. Airplane set, it's flying time. So let's go ahead and start closing up the airplane. Passengers are loaded. So let's go to the plugs, and we're going to go ahead and let's remove the jetway. So there goes our jetway. I said, there goes the jetway. There it goes. Up, we got our cargo doors open. So our jetway is gone. It also closed the 1L door. So we'll click forward, aft, and bulk cargo. There we go. So now that's going to close those doors. Chocks and GPU remain in place. Okay, here's a safety tip on this old airplane. There's our external power. Before you turn off the external power, make sure that the light is out on the APU. After engine start, before you turn off the APU, make sure that the lights are out for generator 1 and 2. If you don't, the airplane goes completely dark on you and the passengers start laughing at you. External power is now off, and we can go ahead and pull the GPU. Looking down here, remember I turned off my parking brakes. We're going to put parking brakes on. And at this point, I can pull my chocks. This airplane does have a pushback system. I generally am still using pushback helper. Pushback helper has been working pretty good for me. So we're going to go over here, and there's pushback helper, and I can go and call the tug. So let's call the tug. By the way, if you're flying an airplane that does not have jetway control in the electronic flight bag, you can also operate the jetway with pushback helper too. And if you look outside your airplane, you can see our tug is now coming in. So the tug's coming in. I'm going to slide this out of the way for a second. We need to go and flip some switches here. We need to turn on the beacon. We're going to do passenger signs. Should have done no smoking too. And all of those are ready to go. And now we can go to the checklist. So let's, okay, see how it's snapping like this? I don't know how to stop this. This is really annoying, and I don't know how to fix that so that we can go and use this checklist. So we'll just come and leave this. Actually, we can leave it on the cloud, and this is going to go and have our latest METARs. But this is another reason why it is. The checklists are sometimes hard to use. So that's another reason why I don't print out a lot of stuff in the world anymore, but this is what I do. So this is the reason why I do these checklists. Cockpit prep is completed. Passenger signs are on. Fuel quantity is verified. 7.8. Navigation is checked and set. Landing elevation is set. Altimeters are set. Brake and anti-skid system is on. Windows and doors are closed. The beacon is on. The parking brake is set. Before start checklist is complete, we can now go and do our pushback. Look outside the airplane. The tug is connected. I'm going to release my parking brake. And over on toolbar pushback, right there, I'm going to hit reverse. And there we go. We are now pushing back. Different airports have different pushback schemes. I don't know what they do at Zurich, never been there. Some will have you spin the airplane, turn the airplane. Others will have you push straight back. Specifically, Denver International Airport, they will definitely have you push just straight back. A lot of people will turn the airplane, Denver, straight back. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to go to the right just a little bit. And we'll try and put the airplane on the center line out here. So this is kind of a steer your airplane a little bit. I'm still trying to figure out the turn radius on the pushback tug. It's not very far. But you can kind of generally do a pushback and put yourself right on that line. Because this would be the line that you taxi in on. And so now we're going to push you over there. Let's see how well I do. Probably a little straighter. And then turn. And again, this is called Pushback Helper. Really pretty cool. I've enjoyed using it. It works great on all my airplanes. The one airplane that I don't use Pushback Helper on is the fly-by-wire, which has an incredible little pushback. It has a great pushback in the electronic flight bag. Okay, parking brake is going on, and we can go and release the tug. There goes the tug, and we're done with Pushback Helper. And now we can go and start engines. Starting engines, turn on our fuel pumps. Lots of fuel pumps. See, I also forgot to turn on my windshield heaters. I usually do that at the gate. And with all those on, so all the fuel pumps are on. We'll look down here. And I'm going to do ignition. We're going to use System A. And with System A in place, we're going to let's start Engine 1 today. So it goes from arm to open. And then if you look down here, here comes Engine 1, N2 going up. It got very quiet in here. It's 20% on the N2. By the way, if you have the Thrustmaster Airbus controls, the engine starter switches actually work very well with the fuel cutoffs on this airplane. So Engine 1 starts. And let's see, we should also turn off that APU on the ECAM. That way we can monitor the engine starts. Real pilots are going to be looking at the bottom gauge here. The bottom gauge is oil. That's going to be oil pressure and oil temperature. Make sure those numbers are those gauges are going up, not down. If the gauges all of a sudden start going down, you've got an oil leak, and that's not good. You probably saw the flash. That was the engine generators. So as a part of the engine start, one of the things is we were on the APU. When the left engine starts, all of the left side airplane systems clicked. And so all of that's set. And we got a good start on engine number 1. Let's come on back up to the upper panel. And you can see that the starter light has gone back to arm, so starting 2. And it goes to open. Same process. Look over here. The number I'm looking at is this one right here in the middle. It's the N2. So N2 is going up. You should note that the oil pressure is slowly going up. And at 20%, 18, 20, then we go ahead and introduce fuel. And then continue to watch the oil. Make sure the oil leaks don't start. Very important. Oil leaks aren't fun. One of the things that we do over in the A320 is called a one-engine taxi, saving fuel for a long taxi. So one of the things is you may recognize this gauge from the A320. the brake accumulator pressure. As engine number 2 is coming up, you can see brake accumulator pressure is going up. I don't know if you do one-engine taxis in this airplane or not, but as the accumulator pressure goes into the green zone with engine 2, it's just like the modern Airbuses. Now, if you look up here, we have got blue, green, and yellow hydraulic systems. Here is a yellow pump, so maybe this is an electric pump that you would use for that. I had to do an experiment and see what happens with that. Okay, we got 2 good engine starts, so we're going to come over here, and I'm going to go to ignition off. You'll hear the blowers change. Now we can come over here to the APU bleed. We're going to turn that off, and you'll see once the APU is now powering the pneumatic system. So let's go ahead and go off, and you can see all of a sudden the engine bleeds automatically turn on. The packs are on. So all of that is done automatically for us. Really pretty cool. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look over here and see generator 1 and generator 2. Those lights are out. We can now come down here and turn off the APU. And then the last thing I'll do is come over here, probe heaters, captain, standby, first officer. Those are the little heaters for the probes on the front of the airplane. Somebody who does ground control says that those things get really hot. So one of the things that I do is I don't turn those on until after the ground crew leaves. Next thing for us to do is go back to the weight and balance. And we're going to look over here, and based on our current weight, our trim setting is going to be up 1.4. This is a question that comes up over on the spy flight a lot. How do we do this, and why is it important? Well, right now you can see this little triangle here. Our trim is set up way, way high. So you need to go and push this down to 1.4. And it makes a funky noise. If you don't do this, the airplane will go nose up on you before you've got your speed. And so you'll stall on takeoff. So there's 2, there's about 1.5, that's about 1.4. It's a general setting, but you can see that now we've set our trim. Then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here and reset the rudder trim. We're not on VATSIM, but I do like to squawk mode Charlie on taxiways. It reminds me to do that when I'm on VATSIM. And now it's time to do the after start checklist. Pitch trim is set, rudder trim is set. Spoilers are not armed. So spoilers / speed brakes are armed. While we're doing that, I'm going to look up here and I'm going to just do auto brakes to auto. Slats and flaps, 15. And so there goes our slats and flaps. You can look back here, and this airplane has some of the best slats and flaps sounds of any airplane in flight sim. I'm not kidding. This thing sounds like the Millennium Falcon is about ready to break. It's great. ECAM status is checked. So is anything funky in here? Nope, looks good. Anti-ice. Right now it is 3 degrees outside the airplane, and we have clouds. I think we may need some anti-ice. Hand signal. We've got our hand signal from the ground crew. Another word for that is salute and release from guidance. And you never move an airplane until you've got that. Because the last thing that the ground crew does is look under your airplane, make sure there aren't any sheep underneath the airplane or something funky. And once they give you that salute and release from guidance, that basically is your airplane is clear, you can taxi, and you won't squash any sheep or anything like that. And we're ready to go. So let's go ahead. We're going to go and turn on the nose light, taxi. I'm going to go and flash the no smoking sign. That rings the bell, lets the cabin crew know that we're going to start rolling the airplane around. Tow brakes on, parking brakes off. Look up here, and out we go. Release the brakes, and I'm just going to go and we'll push the throttles forward. If you've got a light airplane, it will start taxiing for you. And there we go. So as we come on out here, so we're coming out here. we're going to go, and we're going to runway 28, so we're just going to come on up here and go to A1. Once you're all set with that in these charts, I usually will come over here. You also can zoom this in, and you have really good taxi charts. So we're on the inner taxiway, and we're going to go on out. I like to leave that over here. And we could actually do a continue here on the inner taxiway, and this is going to take us up to the Alpha taxiway. One of the other things that you could do is come down here, and as you're doing this, you could hit the flight control button and look down here, elevator forward, back, ailerons. We're taxiing, so you don't want to do your rudder at the moment, but you could go and do all those things. I don't know if we could actually disconnect. I don't think you can disconnect the nose wheel steering from the rudder like you can in the other airplane, in the A320. Now we're going to turn that off. Another thing we'll do is we'll look down here. So to go down here and over by the co-pilot seat, there's a little button you can press. It's your takeoff config button, and it turns green in the ECAM monitor. That is your takeoff config. And we could do the before takeoff checklist. And we just did flight control check. That's good. The briefing has been done, although probably not very well. Slats and flaps are confirmed, 15 and 15. Performance, so it says check and read. And so check and read. So you would look down here and read off your V speeds for takeoff. So we'll finish the turn. So V1 is 134, rotate at 136, V2 is 160. Let's see, performance is done. Takeoff config has been checked. The transponder has been set. And this is an old school Airbus. This is back when Airbus checklists had you go to the line. And so we're done. We're cleared to the line, to the line, and that's halfway done with the takeoff checklist. I think that the line in this case refers to the hold short line. I generally just do a real gentle little takeoff, taxi out like this. Some, you know, the real airplanes tend to not go very fast, especially in a tight area. We are taxiing, if you want to know, our ground speed is 8 knots. We got a 90-degree turn coming up here. Generally, jetliners like you to turn, make a 90-degree turn at 10 knots or less. And if you look outside the window while you're taxiing, this is kind of the speed that you'd be taxiing at, right? So there you go. And we're coming up to our taxi point. ATC just called and said we are cleared to line up and wait on runway 28. This is when I will go and turn my strobes on. I'm also going to go and lower the landing lights out of the bottom of the airplane and finish the checklist. Cabin is secured. TCAS is now going to TARA. Packs are going to be on. Ignition is going to be normal. Anti-ice will probably be ready to turn those on after takeoff. And that's the before takeoff checklist is done. We're cleared onto the runway to line up and wait. This is a fairly tight little turn here. Zurich is in a bit of a valley, so we got a couple of little turns that we're going to be making. And just a gentle turn makes us look all nice and pro. If we had a little bit longer of a taxi today, I would have probably like a real long taxi out at Denver, Chicago, the monster taxi over at Amsterdam. Obviously, we would kick it on up to about 20, maybe even 30 knots of ground speed on a long straightaway. But in a terminal area, hardly fast at all. And as you can see by doing this, hey, we're able to roll out on the taxi right on the runway. So all is right with the world. After departure, we've got a couple little tight turns here. So heading 273, a little turn around the mountains, then a circle, no more than 210 knots. Going around here, we go back over the airport, and then out we go to DEGES. So that's going to be our departure. The thing about this airplane, you can kind of see it looks pretty good, but it doesn't really round the circles very much. So generally, I'd say it's best to hand fly this one. It's not going to fly it it's going to be a little clunky. Okay, so landing lights are up. I say it's go time. At this point, my throttles are idle. I'm going to push them forward to about 30%. And look at both engines. Are they stable? They're stable. I'm going to push it up to 40%. Above 40, click the switch up here on the dashboard. That is auto thrust. I'm also going to click kick profile and nav, and it's flying time. One of the things that I really wish that developers would put into airplanes is airspeed callouts for takeoff. If you've got a crosswind and stuff, staying straight down the runway while looking down at your airspeed, it'd be nice to have the callouts. There's V1 and rotate. And a nice gentle takeoff. Gear. And I'm going to follow my flight directors for takeoff. That looks good. Continue on our heading of 273 degrees like this. Okay, we're getting a little high. Now, if you want, you could go ahead and click the top of the heading bug and click it over to heading mode and go AP. And then look down here. So there is 254. So after this heading, it's 215 degrees. Flaps could go up to flaps 15 and 0. The airspeed should be going no more than 210 knots. It looks like it's speeding up. That's not good. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to leave it at 210 here. We want to hold it at 210. Sometimes this just doesn't work out so good. Okay, now we turn back to 252. So 252 on this turn. Whoa. There's 252. And that's going to be to Z552. And it tried to go back to 200. Well, it looks like it went back to profile on the departure. And now we go and roll it back around to 051 degrees. So 051 is our nice little circle here. That's our next heading. So it took control of the speed again at 5,000 feet. Around we go. Well, it looks like kind of a hazy day on the ground here in Zurich. Really nice up above this hound. I'm wondering if they're not dealing with a big old inversion. ATC just called. We can continue our climb up to 17,000 feet. Sometimes you'll have to hit the profile button to continue your climb. We continue the turnaround here, and we're going basically direct to ZH553. My turn was a little bit wide here, but it's not too bad. So ZH553, then ZH501, and then out to Mommel. Mommel? Mommel? Don't know. Might need to turn in a little bit more to get on our course. Still at 210 knots, right? Still at 210. Good airplane. Still need a little more turn because we were a little wide on our turn. There's ZH553. We're going to go right over that. After ZH553, we can go ahead and do our next turn, which is 051 degrees. Zero 51. So there's our turn. This is a real challenging. So at ZH501, then our next heading is 084 degrees to Mommel. After Mommel, that's when we're going to do some direct twos. And we can go and let auto take care of it. There's 10,000 feet. Landing lights can go off. Nose light. I usually will ring the bell, let the cabin crew know it's 10,000 feet. And there is our next turn, 084. We're done with a lot of the turns now, so we can go ahead and let the old autopilot kind of take over. So how about let's go ahead and after we're done with the turn, speed's coming up, I'm going to go flaps up. ATC called, climb and maintain flight level 220. There's our final cruise. 22,000 feet. Come on down here, direct to Mommel and insert it. Come up here, let's do nav, and it's a nice smooth transition, and out we go. Passing 12,000 feet. Transition here was 7,000 feet, so standard altimeter. This one was quite the turn. This one took a little practice. This one was a fun departure, but we flew it pretty well. And as we look out, we can see we've got some snow on the ground, and it's looking pretty good. Got kind of a low flight today, so to our flight today, so I'm going to go to progress, econ climb. So our optimum flight level is flight level 380. I don't think we were going to make it to flight level 380. So one of the things is you click the fuel prediction, you can see our estimated fuel on board when we land is 3.5. Come on over to your flight plan, go to page 1, and final reserve and alternate is 4.1. We're a little low. On the climb out on this airplane, now's not the time to panic about EFOB, estimated fuel on board when you're landing. The time to panic is when you get to final cruise and go through a checkpoint and then see what happens. Let's see, on the after takeoff, we can come over here. This is an old Airbus, so click the down button on landing gear to put it into neutral. Airplane's in climb power, passing 15,000 feet. And out we go. I'm going to go to 30 miles. We're going to turn on airports. And I'm going to go ahead and click the top part of the heading bug. That's just going to keep my heading bug straight up. You can see we have a blue hockey stick here. This is our top of climb indicator. So this tells us where we're going to be for top of climb. Now we're going to slide over here. I usually put the flight plan or progress over here. So there's progress over there. Usually I do the flight plan on this side. And then what I can do is have econ climb and fuel prediction and all that information for us there. Continuing on out, looking pretty good. And we're starting to see some really great snow. in the flight sim. Really cool to see the snow in the wintertime like this. And then we're good to go over here. You can see that we're departing the SID. So I'm going to go and click out of here. And then I'm going to go and zoom this out just a little bit. We're not going to be going back in. This is a short flight. We're not going back to Zurich. So I'm going to hit edit. And I'm going to delete the departure airport charts. So now all I have is my arrival. This is the reason why it is that I don't have the sync with current flight on. When I am done with the chart, I want to get it out of here so that I can concentrate. This is particularly helpful if we're going into something like, you know, Atlanta, that is going to have like, oh, I don't know, 2 different runways going at the same time. I'm going to have both of the active runway charts. That just makes it a little bit easier to keep my charts sorted out. Passing 20,000 feet. Better ring the bell. Let the cabin crew know that they can get up out of their seats and do cabin crew things. After this turn, once we stop turning, I'll then click the top of the heading bug. Always keep my heading bug synced with the way the direction of flight. Newer airplanes, you don't have to do this. Old airplanes, you do. And the reason I do that, if the autopilot has a nutty or something like that, I immediately just have to look down here, see the little blue pointer. This is the direction I'm supposed to be flying. So there we go. And after takeoff checklist, slats and flaps are up. Landing gear is up and neutral. Packs are on. Altimeters are set. After takeoff checklist is done. Seems a little silly to do some of these checklists in a flight simulator environment, but especially if you are doing a big VATSIM event. So I did a VATSIM event yesterday. Okay, it was a German ATC on VATSIM, and German ATC is absolutely great. They do a really good job. They move a lot of airplanes around, but it's intense. And we went to Hanover, and if I'd done my checklists like I was supposed to, it would have reduced the amount of stress because I know that everything's taken care of. And we are at our final cruising altitude, 22,000 feet. You can see we are in cruise mode. Let's look down here. And now as we're in here, let's look and see what fuel prediction's doing. Okay, fuel prediction went up a little bit to 3.7. This number is going to continue to rise just a little bit. Now, there, 3.8. So we're going to catch up with fuel, and that's going to be a good thing. Longer flights. So this is a short flight for an airplane like this. Longer flights, though, this optimum flight level here, that's where you're going to get your best fuel efficiency. If you decide to do cross the pond at 34,000 feet, you may not make it because the fuel won't be there because the engines have to work harder at a lower altitude. This airplane takes that into account. Okay, so everything's looking good here. Let's once again go ahead and I'm going to resync my heading. There we go. Let's look over here. And you see we have top of descent has now shown up here in the flight plan. And you see there is a time, 15:04 Zulu. Look at your clock. It is now 14:50. So 15:04. So we're about 15 minutes away from top of descent. So there you go. That's how short a flight this is. Now's the time to start preparing for our arrival. So come on over here. We're going to do the localizer to runway 4. So basically, there is a localizer. You could also do a VOR approach. I will usually dial this in if it's available. 111.1 is what we're going to do. So 111.1. Our course going down is going to be 254 degrees. So 254 is what we're going to go over here. 254. 29, 28, 27, 26, 254. Okay, we're good to go there. Now then, once we get to a certain point, we're going to break off from this approach and circle to land. And by the way, this is an offset localizer, so that means if you're just going to fly this down to the runway, gotta tell you, you're going to look down there and say, wait a minute, we're coming down on the beam and the runway's over there. What's going on? There was a time that offset localizers used to just scare the socks off of me. But that's one of those things that gets better with practice. There is a non-directional beacon here. 320, it's the RUM. So we're going to go down to the NDBs on this one. And we're going to put this in. So here it is. Let's go and put 320. 320. And make it active. There it is, 320. So what this means is, and look, you see this little red indicator here? We are already picking up the RUM non-directional beacon. How about that? So the reason that I've dialed in RUM is not because I'm ready to start drinking early in the morning, but if we go over here to the visual approach plate now for the circle to land, RUM is right around here where we're going to break away from the approach and do our circle to land to come in, okay? So we ride the beam down here, but right around RUM, which is 4.2 miles, RUM is about sort of 4.2 miles. It's close. So RUM is a good breakaway point. Couple of things to look for here. There's a double road, there is a power line, and there is a church. Okay? So this is going to be our approach coming in. So we'll remember those. Now, the other thing we need to do is we need to look down here and 3,700 feet. That is our MDA. So let's go and put that in here on takeoff and approach. 3,700. We have to see the runway. That's minimums. Let's go back over here to progress. Top of descent is coming up here pretty good. What do we want to do for our altitude? Our initial altitude over here on this page is we're going to go to Rattenberg, and that's going to be 9,500 feet. So let's go ahead and do that right now. ATC said prepare to descend on the MADEB arrival 9,700. So we're going to go ahead and dial 10,000, click the top, and then that's going to be in hundreds. There's 9,700. Now click the bottom part of that knob. It's kind of hard to see because of the sun. But then if you look over here in the primary flight display, see where it says P descent? That's profile descent is blue. Blue means it's armed. So that means it's ready to go to work for you. Okay, we've been doing all sorts of twists and turns and everything else here. So there's Elmem, and we're going to go to Rattenberg, and then Adwig. And some of the names on this approach are like old buds now. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll resync up our heading. There we go. Hey, look at this. We're starting to see the airport show up. There's runway 25. So we're getting close. And more importantly, we've got some clouds ahead of us right now. What's our weather like? Let's go ahead and click the cloud, and we're going to do update METAR. The last METAR here was 1350. So 1450, we got a new one. Winds are variable at 2 knots. Ceiling and visibility are okay. It's 2 degrees. The altimeter is 1027. Transition level here in this part of the world is set by ATC. I think it's like 12,000 or something. So We won't worry about that. Everything looks good here. How did our fuel prediction? Now our fuel prediction's up to 4.4. It just dropped a little bit. So as we get a little bit closer, now it's going to start dropping, but we're well above our final reserve and alternate fuel at the bottom, which is 4.1. So that's why, you know, it's good to panic later in the flight. But we're going to have just the right amount of fuel for landing. Time for a sip of coffee. Should probably mention it is just before the Christmas holiday here in the year of 2022. I certainly hope that it's been a great year for you. This has been an exciting and fun year for me and this little goofy thing that I've been doing called the spy flight. It's really been good, and I hope that it's been a really good year for you too. Next year, going to continue expanding a few things here on YouTube. Also, it finally became time. Makes sense to start a Patreon page. I'll be saying thank you to the special agents over there at the end of the spy flight. But there's going to be a link. There's a link, I think, already to that. If you like what you're seeing here, that's one thing you can do, is go over and join the special agents at Patreon, where I'll be putting special content over there too. And all of a sudden you can see profile descent is flashing, vertical deviation has shown up, and so the airplane is starting our descent. There we go. Now, you can see the approach is getting really tight here. Okay? Really, really tight. So one of the things that we need to do is I'm going to let this airplane establish itself here on our descent, but we're going to need to start taking control away from profile fairly quickly on this one. You can see we got some pretty tight turns here, so we're going to need to make those tight turns ourselves, and we need to be not doing it at 340 knots like we are here. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and we're going to go to level change, and I'm going to go ahead and start reducing my speed right now. And I'm going to take this all the way down to 210 and let that, hopefully we coast down there for these turns. If we were in VATSIM and ATC, they would have probably been slowing us down too. So there's 210 knots. If we look down here, you can see the big yellow arrow here, and that means we're slowing down as a part of our descent. We're not descending as fast, but as you look at all these mountains out here, I don't care. We're going to make our descent just fine. Now then, we've got a tight turn here from Rattenberg down to Adwig. Chances are that's a little bit too tight for this airplane, so we may need to take control away from LNAV too. Also, we may not be descending fast enough. I'm going to throw out a little bit of speed brake right now, and that's going to slow us down even quicker. If you look over here on the charts, you can kind of see where we're at here. So as we come into Rattenberg, I'm probably going to kind of come out a little bit because that is a very tight turn to come back around to Adwig. So let's go ahead and we're going to go and take control. I just clicked heading select and heading select. So heading select, the first one was the top part of the button. That synced it with our current heading, and now I have control. We're heading 076, 066, 056. I just gave myself 20 degrees out so that we can kind of get around here and make a smoother turn. Oh, look at that. There's 210 knots. Speed brakes down. Flaps 15 and 0. How do you know what your speed is? So flap speeds. If you look over here on the flap indicator, so you can see our flaps, the leading edge slats are coming down now. See the VFE, speed for flap extension, 245 knots, we're good. Actually, at 210 knots, we could even go to flaps 15 and 15. 195 and 180 are the other numbers. So there's 210, there's 18,000 feet. Let's give ourselves 5 knots here. Let's go to 10 knots. Let's go to 210. And I'm gonna go to flaps 15 and 15. Can't be slow enough on this approach. Coming up on Rattenberg. Now, here at Rattenberg, we want to be at 9,700 or above. It's 9,000, no, it's 9,500, not 7. No lower than that, because there's big mountains and stuff. Passing 17,000 feet. Here is our little, here's our little banana line here. That tells us when we're gonna get to be to 9,000. So if we want, we can go and we can throw out some speed brake, and that speed brake is gonna make us descend a little faster because the airplane wants to hold 200 knots. So this will make us descend faster. See a little flap out there, a little speed brake, and some very, very tall mountains coming up. Terrain radar, I don't know if it works here yet. Let's go ahead and turn on terrain radar. Not 100% sure. Okay, we're coming up on, there's the little 10-mile contour ring. So we're gonna wanna start making our turn around to Rattenberg for Adwig. And this is just basically your own judgment on this. There may be some math to support this, but I'm gonna go until we get a little bit parallel with Rattenberg and start my turn around. Okay, let's go ahead and do a right turn and see how we did. And a very, very cool turn around here. The views outside are absolutely outstanding. Seat belts remain on. Let's ring a bell for the cabin crew. Let them know that we want them in their seats for landing. I'm not seeing terrain radar right now, so I don't think that that's set up. Here's the little blue line. I'm gonna go ahead and continue this turn, and I'm gonna really just turn this right over towards Adwig here. And as we continue the turn, one of the things that you could do is from here, we could do a direct to, we can go direct to Adwig, insert it, and quickly come up here and go back to nav. And now the airplane's gonna take care of that. All we have to do is worry about our altitude. And you can see with speed brakes, we're gonna be hitting Adwig at 2,500 feet. So we're in great shape as far as that. Okay, there is this one mountain. So after Adwig, you actually hold on to the altitude of 9,500 feet until the second checkpoint, because here between Adwig and that checkpoint is a high mountain and you don't want to go splat. Okay? Going splat is not fun. Let's go ahead and bring the map in a little bit tighter. So there's Adwig, and there is the actual point where we're gonna descend. And you can see we have vertical deviation is now showing up here. We're gonna use that to help us out a bit too. What altitude do we want to descend to? In this case, now we're gonna go to the visual chart, and we want to go down to 3,700 feet. So that's next. Once we get here, it's 3,700. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna resync my heading. I said I'm gonna resync my heading. There we go, thank you. And as we come up here on Adwig, we're approaching 9,500 feet. Now, this is does have some descent guidance. Let's try and do this ourselves though. So after the turn and after we get established at 9,500, put your speed brakes down. We're done descending. Okay, all this looks good. And we're gonna start our turn. Now this case, we do have some descent guidance. Notice we don't have localizer and stuff on this. So there's Adwig. We're coming around to FF26. FF26 is when we can start down, and we want 3,700. So let's dial that to 3,700. 3,700. There we go. I'm going to bring the map back out here, and as we come on in, there's our approach, and we've just passed. I think we're good to go here. Let's go ahead and do a level change. I'm also going to go and reduce my speed now to 180. 180. And how about another notch of flaps? There's another notch of flaps. And level change should kick up here in just a bit. There we go. And now we got a little banana showing up here, and that shows us right at the end of the runway. So we may need to descend a little bit faster. Well, let's kind of wait and see. It looks like it's a little bit blustery here today. Okay, so all of this is looking good. I'm going to do another click on my map out there. So, next thing that I'm looking for is I'm looking over here at this little red indicator. That's that non-directional beacon. That's RUM. And when RUM does its flippy-floppy, when we fly over that, that's when we're going to go and we're going to do our first turn for the circle to land. And we're going to go to 230 knots. One of the things to look for as we make that turn is this is Innsbruck. The Olympics were here, and you will see the Olympic ski jump. So the ski jump competition. So we're going to look for the ski jump because this is great scenery, and this is why we love Microsoft Flight Simulator so much. Okay, altimeter, that's 7,000 feet. Let's go ahead and get our altimeter as 1027. 1027. Kind of important on this one with these hills. 1027. Looking good. Let's also do landing lights. Nose light. Final cabin call. And we're ready to go. Landing speed, let's come down here. We're going to go to takeoff and approach. VAP is 135. I always add at least 5 to 10, depending upon the wind. I think VAP today is going to be 140. Is going to be our speed. You can see the airport is up ahead. There is the airport there. And this is going to be the little valley that we're going to fly over. Boy, does it look nice and snowy. Okay. Approach checklist. Briefing has been done ad nauseum. Signs are on. ECAM status is clear. Altimeters are set. Minimums are set. Ignition is set. Landing altitude is groovy. Approach checklist is set. So we're coming on down. We're looking good. Speed brakes are away. Let's go ahead and get set up for landing. Armed. We're going to do auto brakes. Actually, let's do low. Auto brakes aren't really... This airplane stops really good. And I say now's a good time for wheels. Landing gear. Let's get established as much as we can because we're going to be busy. This is also a good time for you to sit back. If you've got rudder pedals, gently put your feet on your rudder pedals. And there's landing gear. And we're all set there. Next event is we're looking for RUM. So we're looking for our RUM to flip around there. After that, we're going to need a course heading of 230. There's 230 is all set. So we're coming in very nicely. Up there we are. So after 230, I usually count because we're going to kind of come around this valley. So there's there's our indicator. That's probably good. Let's go to heading select. Heading select over here. Turn off the runway. And we're at 3,700 feet. Altitude's good. And if you look down over here, there is the Olympic ski jump. So that's kind of what I was looking for. Now, the next thing I'm looking for is a pair of power lines. So the next thing is power lines that we're looking for. There's the ski jump. And it's going to be harder to see on this one. But as we come over, when we see those power lines, that's when we're going to turn to a heading of 264 degrees. 3,700 looks good. One good way to know about that is if you look out the co-pilot's window and see the airport. I'm a little bit tight on this one, so I turned a little bit late. And if we look, there are those power lines. It's hard to see with the snow. It's going to yell at us about that, but that's okay. Coming up on the power lines. 264. And as you can tell, terrain radar is not working. So 264 degrees. 264. Come on. Okay, there's 264. Our speed again for landing is 135. Let's go to 140. And now we're looking for the church. 140. There are a number of churches. Flaps are full. There goes our flaps. There it is right there. It's the one with the tall, pointy steeple. At that point in time, it's autopilot off. Look around. We're going to look over here, and you're going to look and see a little bit of a valley. And there's our valley. It's kind of hard to see here. I'm getting some frame rate hits today. I bet it's the snow. So there's our valley, and start down into that valley. You just heard me using my trim control. So we're turning in there into the valley like that. There's our turn. I'm a little bit loose on this one. This is an old airplane, so one of the things is it's not going to respond like the newer ones. So a little late on my turn, but that's okay. We can get back on there. There's the runway. We've got to roll out over here.
Sync rate.
Let's get back over here and get ready. Now then, look at your throttles. You're going to have to do the throttles manually. They won't retard on you. Auto throttles off. Speed's good. There's our rollout there. We're a little bit low. Hunting for some butter today. And there you go.
400.
Hey, look at that. We're actually on a glide slope. On the PAPI lights are good. Not a glide slope. What am I saying? Need more coffee.
200. Sync rate. 100.
Reverse. I'm just using a little bit of reverse thrust right now. This airplane actually does incredibly good with low auto brakes and a little bit of reverse thrust. I don't know if that's the way it is with the real airplane, but there you go. And we're gonna make our turn off. Landing lights. A real world pilot that sometimes does a little bit of live streaming. Katie Pilot was flying in Scandinavia and saw one of the other airlines. So as they get off the runway, Scandinavian leaves the flaps out until they get to the gate. And the reason they do that is so that the ground crew can inspect for snow and ice. APU's going on. I just turned off landing lights and strobes. Let's come on down here. We'll stop squawking Terra. And you can see a couple of areas where the plows have been hard at it. Oh, speed brakes could go down. We'll do that. This is also, by the way, one of the really, really cool airports to go and explore, you know, with the drone camera. And there's the TUI airplane over there, always kind of parked. We'll come in next to that one. One of the things that isn't really well drawn on this scenery is lines into the gates. And everything's looking pretty good here. I hope you enjoyed this. This is a fun flight. The landing was a little sloppy. I was also taking a couple of frame rate hits too as we come in, but I think it's all the snow and stuff. So where do we go? I think that is an indicator of a parking place right there. So maybe that's it over there. So we'll kind of come around here. This airplane does not have stairs that are modeled. So we don't have stairs modeled at this with this airplane, but that's okay. And just a gentle turn on in. So Zurich to Innsbruck, if you're just looking for a short challenge, this is basically an hour gate to gate. And we're kind of nicely lined up there. Look outside. Are we going to clip the wingtip over there? Not really. That's probably pretty good. Parking brakes. Do we have the APU up and running? We do. Engine number 2, engine number 1, I mixed those up. We'll also do the transponder going off there. Let's also get the bleed turned on over here. Should have turned off the taxi light as we came in. We don't want to blind the ground crew. Beacon can go off as well. And we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm gonna leave that center pump on for the APU. See, I also should have turned off the probe heaters as we're coming in. And seat belts, passengers want to get up. We can come down to the EFB, go to the plug. The plug we can put in chocks. We could ask for a ground power unit. There is no stairway that we can get, so we'll just go ahead and do forward cargo, aft cargo, bulk cargo, and we'll open up the left side doors. So there comes our cargo. There's our left side doors. We'll imagine that there's some stairways there. And then if the ground crew has said that our flaps and slats are clear, I think we can go and put the flaps and slats up. It may take longer. Maybe it doesn't work with the engines off on. Nope, they're going up. It's just taking longer, I think. And I think we made it. I hope that, no, they're not going up. They are not going up. We have low pressure in all of those. So let's see, reserves. There is a pump here. There's low pressure. I don't know if turning, here, let's do the electric pumps. Maybe the electric pumps will make that work for us. Yeah, there they go. Now they're going up. So you have to turn on the electric pumps if you're going to go and leave your flaps out for the visual inspection. But you can see there they are going up. Makes sense that they're going to do a visual inspection on these things when you get to the ground. Make sure there's not a bunch of snow and ice in there. And we did it. Nobody was hurt. Nobody was arrested. How about that? That was a fun flight for sure. Hey, as always, when it comes to my flights here on YouTube, this is not necessarily about the absolute right way versus the absolute wrong way to do these things. This is simply what works for me, and I hope that some of this makes flying these incredible airplanes easier for you to fly as well. I'm still new here on YouTube, so I'm still reading all the questions and comments. If you've got questions and comments, if you are a real-world Airbus pilot and you say, no, you never do it like this, I really appreciate comments like that too. I'd also like to invite you to join us on the Spy Flight. It's over on Twitch at 757 Spy. Every flight that we do is a group flight. Most of the flights are suggested by people watching the live stream, so we're not just going where I want to go. So there's all sorts of fun, cool places to go, and I hope that you'll enjoy that. As I also mentioned earlier in the live stream, I did just start a Patreon page. Need to, if you liked what you saw and wanted to support, I would sure appreciate the support. Omenepres, I don't know if I'm saying that name right at all, and Brandon Stewart. Secret agents and special agents have already supported, so thank you for doing that. And thank you so much for flying along with me. I hope that you are having a wonderful holiday with your family. Hope to see you over on the Spy Flight on Twitch, and I will see you again real soon here on YouTube. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, and I will look forward to seeing you soon. Cheers.